We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. We start with former President John Dramani Mahama, who says he is appalled by the slow action of government to fully resettle and compensate victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage. The former president said government is being insensitive to the plight of the flood victims. He was speaking during the commissioning of housing units to resettle 300 families affected by the floods in North Tongue, constructed by MP Samuel Okudzeto-Abuakwa.
According to NADMO, a staggering 12,633 people were displaced in North Tongo alone. I support the call for an inquiry to investigate what the cause of this man-made disaster was. Because we all are aware that VRA has the capacity to measure the inflows into the lake and is also able to annually project the releases that come from the Bagri Dam in Burkina Faso. And so it should have been possible to know that with the excessive rainfall that took part in the northern part of this country, including the volumes that were expected to come from the Bagri Dam, releases or spillage from the lake should have started much earlier than they did. An inquiry will allow us to learn lessons from this disaster in order that it does not occur again. And that's why I urge the Speaker of Parliament, after he ruled that there should be a public inquiry, I urge him to go ahead and set up the committee, so that a bipartisan committee, so that they can hold a public inquiry. This inquiry must be televised so that the whole of Ghana can see it transparently, in order that we know exactly what happened, so that it will not be repeated again. Me appeal to the President Nana Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Dr. Mahama to be more responsive and sensitive to the plight of the victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage, and immediately get to work to commence resettling the victims.
Samuel Okudzeto-Abuakwa says it is unacceptable that more than 5 months after the spillage and its attendant crisis, no concrete action has been taken to restore victims to their previous lives.
Remiss if I do not re-echo the sentiments of our revered chiefs. You have heard the Volta Regional House of Chiefs. You have heard Togbe Manklalo. We are still waiting for the central government to commence the construction of resettlement homes. How long are people going to be living like refugees in their own country, in their own hometown? How long? How long are we going to be living in tents? Very soon, the rainy season will be upon us. Those tents cannot save us. So His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Vice President Alhaji Mahmudu Bawumia remember your oath of office. The oath of office that they swore enjoins them to be fair to all manner of persons. I just want to ask, is it fair that 5 months and counting, displaced persons, no fault of theirs, they have committed no crimes, they are still living in tents? Yes, thanks to First Sky, we delivered the first 300. Today we are delivering the first 300, but that's only 600. According to NADMO, 12,633 people were displaced. So we have only taken care of the number on top of the 12,000.
We stay with the National Democratic Congress because the party has pledged to investigate the circumstances surrounding the indebtedness of the producing buying company should the party return to power. According to the NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama, his previous government, the company was profitable. He attributed PBC's current condition to mismanagement. He expressed his willingness to prosecute individuals found responsible for any wrongdoing uncovered during the investigations while addressing members of the Cocoa Farmers Cooperative in Kumasi. Anaya Ojima has more in the following report.
According to the former president, the produce buying company in 2016 had a 30% share in total cocoa purchase and haulage in the country, but the company is unable to fulfill its obligation in recent times. About 6 financial institutions were successful in securing a court order to prevent any sale or transfer of assets of PBC Limited, including its headquarters. The order was secured following the failure of PBC Limited to honor its debt obligation to the 6 banks. Mr. Mahama, who is saddened by the situation, compares the present state of the company to his term in government.
In 2016 crop year, 2016-2017 crop year, the produce buying company, which has existed for God knows how many decades, from Nkrumah's time, and has been one of the principal stakeholders in the cocoa industry. In 2016, PBC's share of cocoa purchases and haulage amounted to 30% of the total cocoa produced. Today, PBC's share is 0. And as I speak to you, the banks are auctioning PBC's assets because they owe the banks and they cannot pay. The workers of PBC have not been paid for about 8 months to 9 months, and it is not known when they would even receive their salary.
Meanwhile, the NDC flag bearer at a meeting with some cocoa farmers assured of willingness to conduct a full-scale investigations into the matter and prosecute persons culpable.
It is instructive to note that 2 of the directors who have led PBC into the ditch could see that they had finished the company, and so they were looking for new careers. So they went and stood as parliamentary candidates on MPP ticket. And God doesn't sleep. Happily, they lost. Happily, they both lost. And we thank God that He made them lose. Because you cannot behave like this. Run a profitable company like this into the ditch, and then now you want to bail out and go to parliament. They have to stay and wait for accountability. When we come, we will probe what happened to PBC and hold them to account.
For JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
We're still on the NDC as the National Women's Organizer of the party, Dr. Hannah Bisu, has encouraged the newly inaugurated Bono East Regional Women's Working Committee to focus on effectively communicating the party's campaign messages to voters across the region's 11 constituencies. She made this call whilst addressing a team of constituency, regional and electoral area coordinators in Techiman. There's more in this report by Anas Sabit.
The Bono East Regional Secretariat of the National Democratic Congress has inaugurated its Women's Wing Working Committee to fast-track the day-to-day working activities of the party as it commences its quest to win the 2024 general elections. Addressing a section of constituency and electoral area women's organizers from the 11 Bono East constituencies, National Women's Organizer of the party, Dr. Louisa Hannah Bisu, highlighted that the purpose of the committee is to ensure that members convey the party's campaign messages to the electorates.
Being a regional women's organizer who entina wa appointment.
You were chosen by the regional women's organizer for a special purpose. She chose you not because she wants to create more problems between yourselves. You were chosen because she believes you have what it takes to sacrifice for the party. All I'm trying to say is that we are going out there to work extra harder, and that is why we are here today. She further urged members of the committee to bury their differences to enable them win more souls for the National Democratic Congress in the December polls.
I always say that
the creation of the working committee is not to create more problems for us. It is to enable you identify the problems and work towards solving them, because the 11-11 dream can only be achieved with hard work. On his part, Bono East Regional Chairman of the NDC, Yunus, also reiterated the party's commitment towards capturing all 11 seats across the region and charged the women's wing to contribute their quota towards achieving this goal.
Agenda 11 no na ye pe aboafa ombekpa be kan ho ni aka bom aye adwuma ma yatimu anya sa ni swade bom ayenya no.
We are here purposely because of the 11-11 agenda, and so we believe that the women's wing also have what it takes to help us achieve this.
Nipa ye yi omo se omo mra me di dwuma so emfa moa yen wo Bono East e wo ma no mu.
The newly inaugurated team, led by Amina Ronaldo, pledged their full support to the dream of winning the 2024 polls as a means of easing the economic difficulties across the country.
Yes, we are the Asadakase, and ye the Shay paying for no more Shay and when you get the Asadakase, Domasi, or Munim de Tiemu, and Nuntino Modesata do a Shay. Now, Miss Living Yanma, did my men my Atadi, and more be uncomfortable. 2020 for your year became Nipa, 2020, said a year, and it's not a Yaquanya, we are Yaba, Babeka, Miss Ramo, Atadu, Yashami, Mumina, Mumina, Nientiminia, Jumani and Pocotene, Nienfansha and Abisu, then who organizes in Nanu. Swing so yes we am shade the enemy now dear
we have to come together on a united front and we'll be able to achieve this together.
I have decided to work for NDC.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichman.
I have decided to work for NDC.
Away from the NDC, Vice President of Imani Ghana, Kofi Bento, says his life and businesses are under threat following his endorsement of Vice President Dr. Mahama Bawumia's candidacy in the upcoming 2024 general elections. Describing the development as unfortunate, Mr. Bento says he would continue to express his opinions freely, undeterred by the intimidation.
I have had a very interesting week, and I was forced to even put it on my Facebook. People were meeting about attacking me. And there were efforts afoot. You know, you hear a lot of these things, and I'm not saying this is NDC, but there are all kinds of surrogates and people who feel, you know, upset about anything. And I don't have a problem with, you know, debating and, you know, intellectual discourse and debates, no matter how vigorous. Right. Okay, I block a lot of people on my Facebook, but I do that only when you insult. But if you want to debate me, no matter how harshly, fine. But people are planning to attack. Somebody says if NDC comes to power, they will collapse my business. You know, you hear wild things. There are serious personal prices to pay for some of these things. But I agree with you. You don't have to be partial.
Kofi Bento, despite endorsing the Vice President, expresses dissatisfaction with Dr. Bawumia's commendation of the Bank of Ghana during his address.
The bank cleanup was messed up. Again, we know the architects of that. 2, even in that mess up, we should have done better under COVID. Okay, and we didn't. All right. And then your question specifically is what?
He's praising the Bank of Ghana for that project.
So hold on there.
As we speak today, they are actually entities. They are entities.
Don't go too far.
Please go ahead.
I wanted us to focus. He is praising the Bank of Ghana. Hear me well. The worst part of the Vice President's speech was his praise of the Bank of Ghana. I found it despicable. For me, it was the worst part of everything. I'm an analyst. I have friends in the Bank of Ghana, whatever. He says so because the Bank of Ghana helped to save this government. But I'm not sure whether what the Bank of Ghana was doing was in the interest of the state. And I wanted you to focus on that because this is where sometimes you get the opportunity to show maybe a bit of objectivity. I totally disagree with Vice President Bawumia on his praise for the Bank of Ghana. He may like what they did. I don't. And I think the Bank of Ghana have not shown themselves to be responsible in crisis. That is why we gave the Bank of Ghana independence. So that when governments mess up, you don't follow them into the mess and make the kind of losses that you make. And at the same time, be building a $200 million edifice on top of it in this mess. So for me, my worst critic in the speech that Vice President Bawumia gave was his praise of the Bank of Ghana. He may like what they did. I totally disagree with him. And indeed, I hope he finds a way to make sure this does not happen again. We don't need a Bank of Ghana that is independent to be shoring up the messes of government.
Mask up and stay hydrated. That's the caution from the Ghana Medical Association as they raise red flags about the intensity of harmattan resulting in dusty weather conditions across the country. We have details as the association warns the weather condition could lead to increased respiratory infections. Do stay after this break. Thanks for staying with us. Mask up and stay hydrated. That's the caution from the Ghana Medical Association as they note an increase in the intensity of the harmattan resulting in dusty weather conditions across the country. Well, this warning comes as both the Environmental Protection Agency and the Meteorological Services confirm the rise in dust levels. The General Secretary of the association, Richard Salome, says the heightened dust and dry weather could pose significant health risks.
Well, I do not have specific statistics offhand, but a lot of our colleagues have been reporting people coming to hospitals with difficulty in breathing. Some are complaining of sore throats. Some are complaining of, or to the extent of getting patients also reporting with exacerbation of their asthmas as well as some allergic reactions, and then also people who have some eye irritations from the dust. So there are various reports. We are seeing kids also falling ill from these dust particles, cough, and other things. Of course, as I said, there are various, depending on where this dust, what we are calling dust is, there may be other elements within the dust particles which may exacerbate. In some instances as well, for example, many roads are untarred across the country where drivers are driving on these and then stirring up more dust. Some of these are in Galamsey-prone areas, some of these are in areas where chemicals are being dumped indiscriminately, and some of these may settle on skin and then lead to some irritation as well.
At this critical moment, what should the public do to protect themselves against the infection that they may likely contract due to the poor air quality?
Well, let me also add quickly that the weather is not just dust, but it's also quite dry. And so people are prone to dehydration as well. And so beyond that too is the reduced visibility across the country on roads. When you wake up, this fog mixed with the dust, and this is a serious concern because this tends to increase the risk for accidents across our roads and also bushfires. Now, what can we do as a public? Majority of the effect is on the airways, and that is why we advise the wearing of masks as much as possible, especially when we are outdoors. We also encourage that outdoor activities should be minimized to the barest minimum. You have funerals being organized in parks which are not grass, and even if it is grass, the grasses are dry, and this occasion stirs up a lot of dust. You also have kids who go to school and have to engage in physical activities outside. We encourage that those activities should be reduced to the minimum and replaced by other activities.
Well, government has been urged to prioritize domestic immunization financing and programs in order to decrease the number of zero-dose children and boost immunization coverage, reducing preventable deaths. Programs Director for Hope for Future Generations, a non-governmental organization, emphasized that such action is crucial for maintaining the progress achieved in vaccine-preventable disease coverage since 1972, and as Savage reports.
Even though Ghana's immunization coverage of 1-year-olds using the 3-dose of pentavalent as proxy exceeded international benchmarks to 99.4% in the year 2021, the government's inconsistency in honoring its annual obligation towards vaccine procurement is worrying, and this could erode the gains made. And as part of efforts aimed at increasing domestic resource mobilization for immunization by the government, Hope for Future Generation is holding a one-day sensitization meeting with some selected Queen-mothers in the Bono Ahafo enclave to empower them on the need to undertake immunization financing advocacy and community sensitization on new vaccines. Nancy Ansah is the Director of Programs at Hope for Future Generation.
It's very, very important that the government increases domestic resource mobilization for immunization to ensure that we always have vaccines and all that we need for immunization. We are also talking about the timely payment of the co-financing obligations. of government. So that is why we came here. We met our Queen mothers today and we have sensitized them. We all know that they have a big platform. They have a very strong voice. When they talk, their communities hear. When they talk, government also hears. And therefore, they will add their voice to this advocacy project.
Member of Parliament for Techiman North, Elizabeth Ovusu Ejari, under whose jurisdiction the capacity building workshop was held, lauded the move by the organization and admonished the Queen Mothers to champion this cause across their respective traditional areas.
Today, I'm very excited that this project is going on in my constituency. So I think it's a very good thing. It is just trying to sensitize all of us to speak to government. Again, this workshop has been useful to the Queen Mothers who came because of the communication skills and the advocacy skills that has been taught here. Because in their line of business, Queen Mothers are supposed to communicate their policies and traditions and the things that they need to do to the people. Now they've been told how to communicate and communicate effectively. So I think it's a two-pronged approach and it's going to be very useful.
For the Queen Mothers who were taken through this capacity building session, the move would go a long way to promote immunization advocacy as well as help promote the health of the populace. Anna Sabit, Joy News.
We shift our attention now to the educational sector, where there is ambiguity surrounding the University Teachers Association of Ghana's potential industrial action against government. The union is at odds with the government over what they describe as poor working conditions and has warned to lay down their tools if their demands are not met. To gauge support for the strike, a voting process has been conducted on campuses nationwide. Professor Mahmoud Akudugu, the national president for UTAG, noted that while the voting has concluded, a final decision has not yet been made.
Let me say that we've made some significant progress since the process was triggered for the voting across the campuses to determine whether the National Executive Council should declare a strike or not. The Minister of Education, the Honorable Minister of Education, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance, the Honorable Deputy Minister for Employment and Labor Relations have intervened, and we've had some fruitful engagements since Monday, and we have made some significant progress. So the next line of action will be for NEC to review the progress made, especially this week, and to determine that given this progress made, what should be done. But so that's where we are. We will hold a NEC meeting shortly to take a final decision, given the progress made.
But this progress was made before the election was, the voting process began today, isn't it? So what if the general membership decide that let's go on strike? What would you do?
There was the information that they voted for was on the slow pace of the negotiations and the need to get to conclude it for implementation as soon as practicable. And so that was what was voted on. And so if after the vote and the processes, what we are asking to be done is done, I think general members understand that what we want is improved conditions of service and not necessarily about going on strike.
Okay.
We love our job. We want to continue to keep the students in the lecture theaters. We want to maintain the academic calendar and all that we need to do to be able to continue to push the transformation agenda of the country. And so we are committed to that process. And once government shows commitment to meeting our demands, general members, I'm sure, will at least agree with us as a National Executive Council if the decision is made that progress has been made, and so we should do otherwise.
And that's how we wrap up JoyNews Prime. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Faustina Safo. Have a pleasant evening as you enjoy the rest of our programs.